I'm in conversation with Colin Culliton, founder and chief executive of the TPI Group. Colin, it's great to talk to you again. TPI Group, you started as a basic printing company a long time ago, but you've evolved over time into design and marketing as well. Tell us that story. How did that happen?
Well, we started as a Me Too printing company in 1990, and what we tried to do was we tried to emulate our competitors, and we were really offering the same service and maybe trying to be a bit quicker with it, a bit more reliable, better quality. Over time that worked very well, and then we added design about 5 years later, and we had a very integrated design and print business. But after a number of successful years, we entered into the recession, and we saw clearly that print was becoming less important in the marketing mix. We thought it was really important that we offered a better menu of choice, and that if we were going to survive past the recession and into the next positive cycle of the economy, we had to have a better, a wider business. So we're trying very hard to offer a very wide menu and let people pick and choose as they see fit. We think that's a better model for the future.
Did you always know you wanted to run your own business?
When I think about my very first business, it was actually, we started at Bookies in junior school, and I enjoyed the thrill of that, but the pressure of it was taking its toll. And basically we would have the names of the horses, and we would offer them to the class, and then the wider school, and they could pick on the horses and bet on them.
You showed that entrepreneurial streak at a very early age while still in junior school. I get the impression that school generally wasn't the most accommodative environment for pointing you in the career you took.
Yes, school and me had a mixed relationship, to be honest with you. I was dyslexic, but I was very lucky, Vincent, that I had a teacher in junior school who actually thought it was weird that I was so bad at English and Irish, and I was good at maths. And she pushed for my parents to have me tested, even though in those days it was something that wasn't very common. And so I was very lucky. I got a badge in junior school saying I was dyslexic. It's a very common thing now, but I look back on it and I think to myself that being dyslexic was a gift for me, because it meant that I could actually see things differently. So all the way through school, for example, in first year, they had 3 classes. They had honours, they had pass, and then they had what we called ourselves fail, but we were the C class. And there was about 17 kids in that class, and every one of them has gone on to do something valuable and something useful. But all the way through our educational years, we used to find ourselves being the ones that were looked on as being a little bit less than normal, or less than qualified for what we were doing.
Do you think entrepreneurs are born?
There's a lot of research says they can be taught and they can be developed, and anybody can do it if they put the right preparation in. And I think a lot of people, Vincent, don't run their own companies because they're averse to the risk. And all I would say is think about that, because an awful lot of the times, like when I was in my mid-20s, I had nothing to lose. I had no assets, I had no house, I didn't own anything, so I couldn't lose anything. So I'd love to see people embrace the fear a little bit, or what do they say, feel the fear and do it anyway. I would love to see my kids studying entrepreneurship in secondary. I would love to see them learning that as a subject, just like you learn economics.
And do you think you can learn it as a subject?
Absolutely, because you don't need to do it, you just need to know it's available to you.
To be fair, that broad education does need to build in, look, it's not all plain sailing. There are downsides, there are stresses as well.
Absolutely. Sometimes I think, Vincent, it's very hard to get across what it's like to be your own boss. From some perspectives, it looks like the dream job. You can do as little work as you want. You can pay yourself as much money as you want. All I'd say to you is you bounce in the morning. That's definitely a big upside to working for somebody else, when you might bounce in or you might not, depending on the day you're facing. You'll bounce in the morning, but you can't just shoot off in the evening and think that that's the end of it, because you won't leave the job behind. So if you're the type of person who really wants to clock off at a certain time and just not think about your job until the following day, then you're not really suited to starting your own business.
What are the key skills, the key attributes you think that an entrepreneur, somebody who sets up their own business, over time needs to succeed?
You need to be extremely resilient, you need to be hardworking, and you definitely need to be creative. In terms of, by creative, I don't mean like a designer is creative. I mean you have to look at things and try and realign them in a slightly different way, especially when you're coming up against a problem. I suppose probably the most important thing that you need to be an entrepreneur, and a successful entrepreneur, is you can't give up. You never give up. And everyone obsesses, Vincent, about the fact that they need some eureka idea. All I can tell you is we started a Me Too printing company. There was very little unique in it. And most of the disruptors are people who just saw a cleverer way of doing the same thing. So the eureka moment, I think, is probably not something you should focus on. You should focus on the fact that, do you want a career that involves you working for yourself, or do you not?
And people, communications, relationship skills?
Hugely important, mainly with your team, funny enough. I know some entrepreneurs who wouldn't be the greatest people out in the marketplace, but they're brilliant with their team. And that's one of the things that struck me, is there's an awful lot of different types of entrepreneurs, but they all have one thing in common. They all motivate a team well. They all get people to move forward in the same direction at a reasonable pace.
27 years on, where's the vision now for TPI? Where's it going?
Well, energy is a very important thing, passion is a very important thing, and I see our business doubling over the next 4 or 5 years through offering services that are more relevant to the marketeers that we deal with now. Very much in the digital space, very much in the areas that we can offer something very, very new and innovative. There's an amazing amount of very successful marketing can be done with very small spends, and that appeals to me, and I like the idea that a small business could actually do a wonderful marketing job without a huge budget. We deal with some blue chip multinationals and they're brilliant at marketing, but I love the SMEs that do a really smashing job by just saying, you know what, we don't have a huge budget, but we're going to be very creative with that. And our vision is to help them with that. Our job is to help them sell more. And I'd love the TPI Group in the next 4 or 5 years to get to the point where we're helping an awful lot of businesses hit their targets, do what they're doing, and maybe help some of the entrepreneurs that are starting businesses now or will in the future.
Thank you very much.